The Business Owners Podcast is brought to you by Business and Enever Group with your hosts, Linda Reed Enever and Clive Enever. In each episode, we talk to other business owners about their experiences, challenges, and successes. We'll also share tips and advice on how to grow your business and achieve your goals. If you're a business owner or you're thinking about starting a business, then the Business Owners Podcast is for you.
Welcome to the Business Owners Podcast. My name is Clive Enever, and along with Linda Reed Enever, I am your host. I am a business strategist, and I help people discover clarity to engage more effectively with more of their ideal client more often. Today, I'm having a conversation with Luke Heka of SELR AI about the advancements in AI for business. Hello and welcome, Luke.
Hello, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate you taking the time out of today. I'm excited to jump into it.
Absolute pleasure. And particularly as you're rather well schooled in the area of AI, because it's one of these newfangled things that has been around for years, but all of a sudden everybody needs to know and everybody's confused. Some people are worried, some people are frightened, and others are going, wow, this is great because I don't have to think. I just tell it and it does stuff. So we want to know the ins and outs. We want to know the nitty gritty from you.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we'll go through all of that today. There's a lot of hype around AI at the moment. Obviously, it's been around for quite some time now. I got into this space maybe 5 years ago, a couple of years too early. A lot of business owners didn't even know what AI was when we first started out. But yeah, just if you're a business owner out there today and you're listening to this, obviously stick around and I'm going to break down all the do's, don'ts, green flags, red flags, and what you should do to get started. Because at the moment, it's very easy, whether you're on social media, AI is a very popular conversation at the moment. And I think there's a big difference, not only just in people that build and implement AI into businesses, and then there's people that create content around AI. And it's really important to understand the value that both of those parties bring, because if you follow the content creators, they don't know how to do implementation. They've never done it themselves. But then it's just trying to balance that. I guess the industry at the moment, because it's a very new technology and not everyone's scared of it and everyone's hyping it up. I'm excited to jump in and navigate that conversation.
That's great, Luke, because whilst we have a very engaging topic and there's lots that I want to learn about it in particular, we want to know a little bit about Luke before we get going.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that you're normally on the Gold Coast, but you're not there at the moment.
Yeah, no, I'm currently in Melbourne at the moment. I've been here for a few weeks. But yeah, our main head office is in the Gold Coast.
We want to find out more about Luke now. Is it tea, coffee, or something else?
I'm a coffee man. I'm probably way too much of a coffee drinker. So I'm a cappuccino with triple shot in the morning, and then straight after that, I'll get one to go. And then I'll probably have another one, or maybe two more throughout the day.
So are you lining up for that certain battery bunny, are you? You want to put a path in that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just very immune to drinking lots of coffee. So I think it comes from some of my earlier career jobs and working. So it's just carried through into AI.
We'll come back to those earlier jobs later. Are you an early bird or a night owl, or can you do a little bit of both?
I'm an early bird. I'm a 3:45 every day. I wake up and get everything sorted. Most productive time for me. I can do a little bit of late night stuff if I need to, but yeah, majority early morning.
Yeah, 3:45 is reasonably early beginning.
That's an early one. I love that time of the day. It's my favorite.
Yeah, it's very pleasant to be able to get things done without the constant interruptions of phones and emails and goodness knows what else.
Yeah.
What book are you currently reading and why can't you put it down?
I have 2 books at the moment. So I read 2 books at the same time. I have The Master Key Systems, which is one. It talks about, that's more of a slow progression book I read every morning. And it pretty much just goes over on like how to, it's like definitely a manifestation, visualization, and how to like clear your mind and how to obviously just have a look at your own thought patterns, your thinking, how you talk to yourself, how you talk to others, and just how to clear out everything that you currently have. Yeah, I usually read something like that in the early morning, short paragraphs. The book that I'm reading at the moment, my nighttime book, is 10x is easier than 2x. I do that book as well. Very a lot of stuff in that kind of, similar types. That one I really just like it because timing wise, it's reinforcing what I'm currently doing. And I like the methodology in there where it speaks about you can only just work so many hours. I'm not shy to working long hours. I'm usually working 3:45 right to 7 or 8 p.m. at night time, which is like usual hours, but really just diving into more of an understanding of not to do 10x, you can't just brute force it and work more hours. You have to have a different strategy. You have to think differently. You have to approach things in a different manner. That's something I didn't do last year. So that book is a really good pivot for me at the moment to reinforce that.
Excellent. What is one word you would use to describe your journey so far, Luke?
One word to describe, I guess, my journey would be different.
Tell us more.
Yeah, I guess for me, I speak to a lot of business owners around Australia and around the world, and everyone wants to know, okay, how did you get started in AI? And for me, I didn't come from a tech background. I didn't come from this education system or anything like that. As far as school goes, I really just was not good at school at all. And yeah, I think for me, I actually my first jobs were in the shearing sheds and traveling around Australia. And people were like, okay, that's a bit of a funny transition. So I went into obviously the travel as a young kid. I always had a job as a young kid. I never had a McDonald's job or anything like that. I had a man's job at a very young age from 11 kind of upwards in shearing sheds. And I got paid a man's wage if I could do a man's work. And that's how my father made it. He's like, if you're here and you got a job, you work a full day's work. And I just grew up in that kind of environment. I didn't have like a little kid's job. And it's been like that ever since. But being able to transition out of something like that and eventually end up in tech and doing what we do and building software for businesses essentially that's why I say it's different, because that's not a normal path to take. And alongside in that as well, obviously, going to school, but not doing anything great in school or anything like that, and then still be able to be in the position I am now and building software and not having that background. Is people ask me, and I had a joke the other day with one of my good mates, and he was like, man, what happened? Like, how did you do software? And I always joke to him, I'm like, didn't you do that software class at school? Because obviously we went to school together and he was right next to me. And we always joke about it, but I always joke, I'm like, yeah, I didn't do anything at school. It always made sense to me. What I do was really what I should have always done at the start. It just took me a lot longer to figure it out.
These journeys have an interesting way of winding us around to where we need to be. And it goes to reinforce, of course, that with the right attitude, you'll eventually end up in the right place to achieve the outcomes that you're after.
Yeah, I've had a lot of businesses now that I think about it. And and that's why I say different. And I've been in tech. If there's been a business, I've just about tried most of them.
There you go. So you started out in shearing, and even those who've not witnessed shearing, I'm pretty sure understand that shearing is a pretty full-on task. Once you start the day, you're locked in for a full day. So that was good practice for your 3:45 a.m. starts there?
That was essentially embedded into me. And I always laugh when people like shearing sheds and stuff like that. The biggest skill I picked up out of that was hard work and speaking to people. Shearing sheds has a very different variety of people. That's not this common ground. And I didn't only just do that throughout certain areas in Queensland. I did that all throughout Australia. We traveled everywhere from Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria. So I was always on the road. There was always a new batch of people. So it didn't matter where I went or what I did. I had to have conversations with adults. There was barely any kids there, other than maybe my siblings, but we were usually fighting. So there was this ability just to navigate and talk to people that were very raw, and they weren't in this, I can approach anyone, which is fine, like being in those situations. And I spent a lot of time sitting around fires, listening to older people talk and navigating conversations and being in those conversations. So I think that's one of the biggest lessons. And then just the hard work was just normal. By the time I left school and had a job in carpentry and doing what I was doing, like that was easy. Everyone was like, this is hard. I'm like, I went to places where there was no running showers or hot water or even power sometimes. But yeah, I grew up in a business ecosystem that was very outdated and very old school. Back then, I still got paid with checks in an envelope or cash at the end of the thing. And you had a bank check and a cash check. And that was my first insight into business and how things operated. I was still 11, 12. And back then, I think I was still getting $600 or $700 cash in hand for doing my week's work. And everyone was like, what does a 12-year-old kid do with $600 cash? I actually still don't know what I did with it. I figured something to do with it. But yeah, it taught me a lot in its earlier days around just people and work.
Yeah, and in the end, Luke, it really is just about having conversations, isn't it, with people?
Yeah.
Even what you're doing now, notwithstanding that from time to time you're talking to a computer, it's really all about having a conversation with a person.
Yeah, I think so too. And I always say this in our AI space, doing businesses is always going to be the same, and how it's done is about to change. But the doing bit is what we're doing right now. I'll go into this conversation later on where I think a lot of people that are in the, I guess, the older demographic at the moment that are maybe afraid of AI and all of these things don't understand the leverage power that they have, because they have a skill that not many of these younger business people have, where they're able to have conversations with people and navigate it. And I think that's the skill they're not leveraging at the moment. They need to pair the AI up with the people skills at the moment, because they have those. That's the biggest advantage.
Indeed. And tell us just a little bit about what it is you're doing. Pick a specific task you've had recently where somebody was able to leverage using your AI skills or the technical stuff that you introduce and do better that way, just so we get a clearer idea. Because most of us out here, me included, are going, okay, how can we best use AI to really kick along?
Yeah. Okay. So I might just give you the whole top-down view for everything, and then I'll navigate into that one. The whole AI space at the moment is quite confusing for business owners, as we already know. But there's a few different sections of it, right? There's people who build AI softwares, which is like a SaaS company, a Xero, your accounting software or something like that, where you can use that service. And then there's consultants, and then there's automation providers, which I do those last two, where we essentially will come in, we can consult on businesses and then also build software and technology. Now, the difference between a SaaS company or an app or something that you'd use, you can use their service. Us, we build that app, or not even an app, I guess that technology or software that the business owner is what we would call like a digital asset that the business owns. Now, this is a little bit different, because in the previous times, like I guess a software was something that a business owner obviously owned, and they can own that. I guess if we look at software in the AI space, it's like agents, and agents are, I guess, agents that do specific tasks for businesses autonomously without someone having to touch it, or you teach it, you get it to understand what needs to be done, and then you go from there. So how most agencies work, or people that are in the automation space, we do an audit of a business, go through it, and then provide like a clear roadmap and structure. It's not something that happens overnight. Most business owners come to me and all excited, and they want to go crazy in AI everything. Would love to do that. It'll be perfect. They want to sit on the beach and let AI take care of the whole business. That's a fallacy. Please don't try to follow those rules or do that. It's not. It's here to alleviate time and scale a business without having to add extra people into the business. If we look at 90% of businesses today, most of them are understaffed and overstretched anyway. So it's just allowing us to stabilize that core team and that main infrastructure of the business, and generally changing roles. But to give you an understanding of some basic level tools that would be quite handy for most people that are common. One is like obviously invoices and payment systems. A lot of everyone has invoices and payment systems. So a lot of AI tools that we build go through and scrape anything coming for emails, create payment runs, put them into Xero, do pretty much that whole payment system. That's all automated. As long as that's a pretty common tool. Quoting jobs, inquiries. So let's just say if you're a tiling company or a building company, having everything that comes in from an inquiry comes in for a business, taking that inquiry, and actually I do it for a concrete polishing business. For example, client comes in from a website, ads, or whatever it may be, taking that client all the way for the process where the call is booked in or the on-site is booked in, and I've already got a quote. So what that would look like is the AI is having a conversation with that client, navigating it, getting the measurements, where they're at, do they have a budget? And in that way, after that, the AI will be like, hey, great, this job might be in the 40 to 60K range. Is that within your budget? Yes, no. And then from there, they can schedule and book a call, an on-site call. And that whole process is taken care of 100% with an AI, so that if you're a tradie or you're someone in the office navigating that, you don't have to take care of it. Those are like more like normal kind of stuff, some technical artist stuff that we've done. A lot of the finance stuff is very hard, especially when we get into more of our large corporate style businesses. There's a lot of, I guess, Excel spreadsheets. These businesses have been around for a long time. Many of them balance a lot of their business on Excel spreadsheets. They're providing reports, they're extracting data and information from multiple different softwares. This is a job that usually requires either an accountant or multiple people within a team. We're able to extract all of those numbers and that information and then automatically populate it in a dashboard or in their spreadsheets as well. So it's 100% live and accurate at all times. A lot of these larger corporation businesses have got softwares that they've had for 10, 15 years that are very embedded in businesses, but they haven't been updated or they don't have features that they need, but they're stuck with them at the moment as well. So our job is to link a lot of those up and provide connection, because a lot of what these businesses now have is teams that pretty much do that as a job. It's just data entry. They're just taking information from this software and putting it together and either providing reports, financial updates, or they're making decisions based on that information as well. We can eliminate any of that data entry as well. A lot of voice calling systems, like people that are picking up phones, scheduling, like that's pretty common stuff. I think a really big one that's popping up for businesses is content creation and marketing. So at the moment, I can get, and I guess what we would call an agent that creates your Facebook ads, your Google ads, everything autonomously without you having to touch it. You can also go down the route where at the moment, I know a lot of people don't really like getting on camera and doing like content for their business. You can actually just get a full AI to do it now, and it will do it.
That AI is actually going to take away jobs. I personally take the view that it's probably going to build a bigger pie by doing the jobs that people don't like doing. Which side of the coin is accurate, or are both sides accurate?
I think both sides are accurate, and people are afraid of it in the wrong ways. AI is taking jobs. AI is taking jobs. It's heard over and over again. It's usually heard from people that have no education or understanding of how the software works. So when I say to people, I'm like, hey, who'd you hear that from? And they say, oh, this person, I'm like, how many AIs have they built? How many businesses have they automated? What have they installed? And generally the answer is no. So if you just take that approach to it, you're probably speaking to someone who hasn't implemented it. So there's a really couple good takeaways here, right? I had an argument with someone a while ago and they're like, AI's taking jobs. I'm like, you didn't like your job anyway. So I'm like, don't try to complain about AI's taking jobs.
It's a handy thing to blame.
Yeah. The key thing that I'm really starting to see is the stabilisation of internal core teams. Now, any business owner would know how hard it is to find talent, but keeping talent's another different game as well. And generally, we get a lot of movement from, I guess, core people within the team due to things like stress, understaffed, not the right talent. All of those factors come into play. And having, a business, let's say if we have a 30 kind of 60 split where 30% are people that might come and go. That's a kind of normal ratio in a business, seeing where we will always have floaters that come and go. But the things that really make a business like survive and thrive over a long time is that internal core team. And as a business has seasons, it's important to try to stabilize and keep that team as best you possibly can and educate them and train them. But with AI, if we're able to take away a lot of that external pressure and scalability, their jobs become a lot stable, like nowhere near as stressful. And this is a conversation I've had with business owners. And okay, great, they're not doing as much work as what they were doing. Should they be paid as much? I'm like, yes, they should be paid as much. It's not the fact that they're not doing the right work. It's usually a 60-40 split. If I look at every business and every person that we navigate, 60% of it is things that don't move the business forward. So if you look at your team and you got them to write down everything that they do in a day, 60% of it is just bogus things that do not need to be done, that don't make the business money, that don't move it forward. The way that you want to be strategized and implement an AI is looking for that 60% and getting the AI to take care of those low-hanging fruits, those automatic systemized things that can be taken care of, and then letting your business, like the people in your team, take care of that top 40% of things that really move the business along. Now, that sounds all good and dandy and sounds like a smart approach, but it does come with struggles. It's not easy to move it across, but it does pay off in the long run. I always say that to everyone. Yeah, great. The theory's there, but execution is a little bit hard because we're not only dealing with just technology, we're also dealing with like human as well. And you might have someone that's been in that game for 15 years, getting them to let go of everything that they've done for 15 years and transition over to this is not going to happen overnight. So there's a lot of training, there's a lot of education in it. I think if there's one thing that kind of surprised me in the whole process of implementing AI into businesses that really took me off guard, that I didn't even think to encounter, was the sabotage of internal team members for AI. And I sat with my team like a few times and I was like, what is it? And was it we mean, like, okay, great. Why did that project take so long? Why was that taking so long or anything like that? And when now we have a very different approach, and the reason being is we come into a business, we have to meet with people, we have to ask questions. They were gatekeeping everything. They weren't telling us nothing because they were like, these guys here taking our jobs. And it wasn't something I encountered. So we had to pivot really hard, really early and navigate that conversation where now we start from the top up and it comes up more of an education like, hey, we come in here to obviously alleviate some pressure on the job because we can't grow and we can't scale. So it comes from the top down now, rather than just being like, oh, hey, have a call. These guys are the AI guys that come in and take your job, because that's what gets spread around. So my team was like, obviously they're in the tech world, and they're like, hey, man, like no one's getting back to us. These people are like, were asking how they do this or they do that, and they write in like one sentence. And yeah, they just weren't giving us any.
Of course, the idea really is that by relieving people of these tasks that are repetitive, that are generally somewhat boring, you're actually giving people the opportunity to be more productive. And typically people who are more productive are more enthusiastic about life, aren't they?
Yeah. If you're using it in the right way, this technology, yes, it definitely will save you a lot of time. It should take a lot of stress off your plate. I feel like the work culture will change. And am I all for that work culture change? I like to work. I like doing long hours and stuff like that. But if you look at majority of the workforce today, it's more catered to people that want to work 4 or 5 hours a day and not be in these high stress jobs. And that's just realistically where things are heading. I don't think that doesn't not happen with AI. I feel that's where things are heading, where people will have a little bit more of a cruisier job. I think talent is super hard to find these days in pretty much every aspect. Like that quality of work goes down quite a lot, but I think with AI, we're able to bring that standard up to a very high standard. So there's two things here that are probably going to sneak up on people. One, solo entrepreneurs being able to scale businesses very big with very small teams. Even me, I've made cuts in my team, and just I think that entry level for business owners to be able to actually start a business without having to hire all these people is going to be absolutely like astronomical. You're going to have a lot of solo developers, as we're in now or in the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Starting a business, you had to get so many other people involved just to get it off the ground. You didn't have the likes of some kind of AI platform that you can just ask it questions and it can give you the answers. You had to find mentors, you had to find people, you had to ask copy with people. As we're now, everything is super instant. And then to add an additional layer on that, you can actually get the AI to do the things that you're asking the questions for, which is phase 2, which is where we're at now. If these agents, and now that speeds everything up even more. This is where I explain to people that are in maybe the better aged demographic, where there's this battle of it at the moment where people who are these young founders, they got speed. Like speed is like them getting a website up today is normal. You getting a website up in a month is, oh yeah, cool, we'll move it. One day is they'll get it up in 2 hours because they just know how to prompt it up. And so there's two sides of the coin here. They've got speed, they've got tools, they've got access to all the information. You haven't got the experience on the ground in front of people, these people skills. So there's a duo here. And then on the other side, people have been in business a long time, they just need to understand that's what they're coming up against. They're coming up against solo developers that can execute speed, massively scale things in and have that advantage. But I think duoing that combo up with AI and understanding the technology, not putting it at the back burner is really important. And I think that's the battle of the things at the moment. I see so many young guys I speak to.
Big changes. But the good news is we actually have some people around, such as yourself, who understand how the Dash thing works and have the experience and skills to understand that we still need to communicate with each other. And it's actually enhancing that communication, which is going to help a person in business. So you provided us with some tremendous information. So before I let you go, how can our viewers and listeners get in contact with Luke?
Yep. So the best way to get in contact with me would be via social media, is obviously where everyone gets hold of me at the moment. So if you look me up on social media, my handle is Mr. Heka, or if you just look us up online anywhere, so it's SELR AI, SELR AI.com. We show up on Google everywhere. We're also located in the Gold Coast as well. So if anyone wants to pop into the office, we have a boardroom and everything there. I'd be happy to sit down and have a conversation with you as well. Or our website, you'll find us. If you just look up SELR AI, you'll find us. It's pretty hard not to see us anywhere.
See, and there you are straight away. We're identifying, yes, we can have a conversation even about AI.
Yep, 100%.
And implementing AI so that you can still have conversations with people. So I think that's absolutely excellent. You've provided great advice, Luke, for all of our listeners, and me. Thank you very much. To our listeners and our viewers, thanks for joining us on the Business Owners Podcast. And be sure to check out our back catalogue, because just like this conversation with Luke, each of them is filled with absolute gems of wisdom. And we'll be back with another podcast very shortly. Thanks, Luke.
No worries. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Business Owners Podcast. We encourage you to connect with us on social media and join our community of business owners at businessbusinessbusiness.com.au.